Welcome to the Neil Thomas Show. I am your host, Neil Thomas.
Coming to the near side, to the end zone, touchdown, Tim Tebow. Tebow to the left, to the end zone, touchdown. Tebow, that was easy. Here he goes, his first career touchdown pass. And he decides to go on the quarterback draw. Tebow running with it. Tim Tebow.
That is right. Tim Tebow is back in the news. After being out of the league for 8 years, the Jacksonville Jaguars decided they were going to sit down and talk with Tim Tebow about a possible tight end position. For those of you who haven't put it together, Urban Meyer and Tim Tebow knew each other very well when they were both in Florida and won 2 national championships. Now, the Heisman Trophy winning quarterback may not be able to throw the ball around like he did in his college days, but it'll be interesting to find out what the Jags say. The story goes that they were going to sit down yesterday and have a chat about him and his possible return to the NFL. Urban Meyer, being the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, obviously has a connection and would love to bring back Tebow if he found that it would be beneficial to his team. That should be the entire story. An old coach possibly bringing back a star player, switching to another position, but of course that's not the story in the media. The story in the media wants to compare Tim Tebow to Colin Kaepernick. You see, they can't tell the difference between Tim Tebow, who was known for Tebowing in the end zone, where he put his knee down and prayed after a touchdown. Colin Kaepernick was the guy, of course, who decided to put his knee down during the national anthem. He put his knee down during the national anthem. He disgraced his country. He put his knee down during the national anthem and disrespected every veteran and current member of the United States Armed Services. The idea that a knee to the ground means the exact same thing is ridiculous. Tim Tebow Tebowing in the end zone after a touchdown is not disrespectful to anyone. Tim Tebow praying for a moment, thanking God for his abilities after a touchdown is what it is. He didn't make a political statement. He simply prayed. And to be so disingenuous as to compare that to the political statement that Colin Kaepernick made is complete and utter nonsense. Well, let's pretend for a moment that Kaepernick is actually blackballed. Let's forget that he wasn't actually that good of a quarterback to begin with, and that he started making trouble after he got benched. But let's pretend, let's get in Kaepernick's head and the heads of all those woke individuals that believe that he has been blackballed. If that's actually the case, that's on him. He's the one that decided to make this political statement. He's the one that decided to disrespect these veterans. You know, I don't know when the last time you went to a NFL game was, but I've been to several. The last one I went to was in Baltimore. Now, the NFL tries to promote this very patriotic, wholesome idea that's what they stand for. They'll have the flyover of the Jets before the game. They play the national anthem. They actually have the band spell out USA on the field after playing Lee Greenwood's God Bless USA. This is not the environment where you want to try to make a very unpatriotic, very disrespectful statement that Kaepernick made. It resulted in millions of revenue loss for the NFL, and any team that even looked at picking him up saw a massive onslaught of phone calls and letters saying, no, we do not want this disrespectful punk here in our city. We will turn in our season tickets. We will not go to the games. We will keep our own money. It's my $500, whatever it is that costs, a family of four, probably at least $500 to go to an NFL game, and we will spend that money elsewhere. If the Jacksonville Jaguars decide to offer Tim Tebow a tight end position, they are not going to lose season ticket holders because their new tight end takes a knee in the end zone after a touchdown and prays for a moment. It's not going to happen. Stop trying to make this about race. Over 70% of the NFL is black. It's not about race. It's about the actions of these individual players. So to Tim Tebow, good luck to you. You have a new fan here. I'm going to be rooting for you in Jacksonville. Urban, I hope that it works out for you. Hope to see good things from Tim and the Jags, but the transition normally from college to pro for a coach is much more difficult than the players. So good luck. So what else is going on that we can talk about here? We have surging gas and oil prices. We have a crisis at the border that the nitwit in the Oval Office caused and refuses to do anything about. We had the gas shortages on the East Coast. And we have the audit that is still going on in Arizona that is scaring the hell out of the Democrats. But let's talk about COVID. So the CDC announces that fully vaccinated individuals no longer need to wear masks. So of course Biden comes out in his very authoritarian way and states that here are the rules. Slam fist on table. You will either wear a mask or you will get a vaccine. How are they going to tell who has the vaccine in public when people aren't wearing masks? What's coming? Are we going to see vaccine passports? Are we going to have to show our papers now when we're out in public? Is the Biden SS going to be able to come up and demand your papers? What we've learned in this country is not only who would get on that train car when the government says to get on, but who would push you in the back into the train car. And now we have a battle between the White House and Democrat governors and mayors of large cities. This is going to be interesting. The days of claiming that they are, quote unquote, following the science are long gone. Science has nothing to do with these restrictions, and they haven't for quite some time. If we followed the science and the CDC has said that these masks are no longer necessary, then these states and cities should no longer have mask mandates. But we're seeing that individual states and cities are still keeping these mandates. Maryland, for instance, has gotten rid of its state mandate, but Baltimore City is keeping it. And we're going to see this more and more all over the place. Red states, for the most part, have had much more relaxed restrictions for quite some time now. If you're uncomfortable, you don't want to go out, you don't have to. If you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. Nobody's stopping you. But the idea that we need the strong arm of the government to tell us what to do is ridiculous and not in line with the founding of this country. This country was created on the idea of individuality and individual liberties. Stop it already. We have an authoritarian government, and it needs to come to an end. The left never allows a crisis to go to waste. Anytime anything negative happens to this country, they use it to their advantage to grow in power and gain more control over the people of the United States. And now that the CDC and the federal government are removing some of these mask restrictions, do you remember the Neanderthal comment that Biden made after Texas and Mississippi lifted mask mandates? That it was Neanderthal thinking to remove those masks at that point. Where was the surge? The idea was that there was going to be this surge of cases in those states, and it was a stupid thing to do. Never happened. Those states never had that surge. It did not happen, and he looked like a fool. As a matter of fact, if you take a look at the death tolls In the blue states versus the red states, the blue states have far more COVID deaths than the red states. The idea that these shutdowns did anything positive for this country is just not true. All the shutdowns did was help the left in multiple ways. The first way is that it allowed the left during the election to attack President Trump's economic record. They were able to shut down their individual states, jacking up that state's unemployment rate, which obviously made the national unemployment rate skyrocket, and then they blamed the president. And if we need evidence of this, if we need some sort of proof, let's take a look at the unemployment rates per state. The worst state, Hawaii, New York, New Mexico, Connecticut, California, Nevada, all blue so far, the District of Columbia, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, blue, 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 Louisiana, Rhode Island, Illinois, Texas. There we go. The first red state. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 11 states plus the District of Columbia, all being the highest unemployment in the entire country. This isn't a coincidence. You know, you can't say that left-wing policies work when the absolute worst of the worst economic states are all blue states. They're not only the worst states economically, they were the worst states as far as COVID and COVID deaths. And now that there's a Democrat president, it's not getting any better. The states are fighting against the CDC and saying, no, we're going to keep the mask mandates. We're going to keep things shut down, even though it's shown no signs that it's actually done any good. They just naturally need that control. Democrats need to grow government. That is their philosophy. That is that's why they exist. You know, let's take a look at the other end, the very lowest unemployment states out there. Nebraska, South Dakota, Utah, Vermont, New Hampshire, Idaho, Iowa, Kansas, Alabama, Montana, Wisconsin, Indiana, Minnesota, Missouri, Oklahoma. How many blue states are in there? 2, maybe 3? It's not a coincidence. So left-wing policies are failures. They've been failures for decades. And now we have one of the most far-left governments that we've had ever in this country. So what can the Republicans do? What can those on the right do to regain power? What can they do to at least balance the government so that we have some semblance of sanity? Well, Liz Chaney was possibly the first sacrificial lamb. Representative Liz Chaney was removed Wednesday from her leadership position among House Republicans. She was ousted as conference chair in a voice vote by House GOP members shortly after their closed-door meeting came to order, and the meeting was adjourned within 20 minutes. After the vote, Chaney told reporters that she will do everything I can to make sure the former president never again gets anywhere near the Oval Office. She faced the oyster from her leadership position for openly criticizing Mr. Trump. Now, let's be very clear. She did not get ousted simply for criticizing the president. She was ousted for trying to connect President Trump to the January 6 attacks, which he has been acquitted. She was openly vocal about the fact that she did not align with the ex-president on the issue of the election and election integrity. And if she wants to do that, that's fine. That's not a deal breaker in the Republican Party. But when you accuse the ex-president of inciting violence the way that the left has, it's unconscionable. That's certainly something that we can't allow to happen. How can you feel that you should still be respected in your party when you openly lie about a prominent figure in that party? You lie about the ex-president. You openly do this, and you look shocked when they voted you out of your position. The GOP needs to unite. The GOP needs a face, a voice out there to bring them together and to bring their message out, their message of individuality and individual rights. The idea that the government is second in our lives and we come before that government. The complete opposite of what the left is telling us. We don't serve the government serves us. Liz Chaney is not part of that message. Liz Chaney is not one of the representatives telling us that we come before government. Senator Tim Scott, on the other hand, seems to be one of those individuals. Senator Tim Scott, who has openly stated that he doesn't believe the country is racist, and was slammed by the left-wing media for making such a horrible statement. He said that he loved this country and that he felt that it's a great country and it's a great place to live. And that's something that those on the left cannot accept, that this is a just and fair country, that this is a good country, and that this is a place where people should want to raise their children. The left sells hatred. The left sells division in this country. So what we need are these voices that say, no, you are more important than the whole. The individual is what we as a nation need to protect. The Ayn Rand quote comes to mind. Do not make the mistake of the ignorant who think that an individualist is a man who says, I'll do as I please at everyone else's expense. An individualist is a man who recognizes the inalienable individual rights of man, his own and those of others. That is where the right should strive to go. That is where the right will pick up more popularity. Praise the individual over groupthink. Value the individual over collectivism. Is there a minority who has been stepped on more than the individual? Liz Chaney was very outspoken about the president and his claims of the election and of the election fraud. I have no idea if there is any type of fraud going on in the election, but Donald Trump had the right to question it. Donald Trump had the right to ask for audits over different areas. There was enough evidence that came out to where these audits were justified. Now we have an audit going on still in Maricopa County, Arizona, and of course the left has thrown an absolute fit about the audit going on. They've challenged it at every point. They've sent lawyers to try to stop it, and they look more guilty simply trying to fight this audit than they did during the election, than they did the weeks after the election. Why would you need to bring so much attention to try to stop a simple audit? It makes no sense to me, other than you have something to hide. Now we're still weeks away from the actual results of this audit to come out, but some of the reports coming out of this audit are interesting. One of the updates stated, as we open boxes of ballots delivered by Maricopa County, we are discovering significant discrepancies between the number of ballots therein and batch reports included in the boxes. Okay, we have no idea what significant means, and honestly what really the discrepancies are. However, they're finding something, and that's interesting. Again, I'm not making any judgment, nor am I saying that there was any type of fraud. I'm just saying that things are interesting. Arizona Secretary of State Katie Hobbs has repeatedly called the forensic audit of Maricopa County's election ballots and machines the fraudit. Isn't it interesting how things have turned? It's now those on the left that are claiming fraud. These are the same people that said you are not allowed to use the word fraud unless you have a major amount of evidence. If you use the word fraud and can't back it up, you are inciting violence. Well, I invite Arizona Secretary of State Katie Hobbs, at Katie Hobbs for those of you on Twitter, to stop using those terms. You are inciting violence, and what you are doing is being a hypocrite. This audit will continue. This audit will come to a conclusion, and we will have some sort of result, whether you like it or not. You can't stop the audit. It's not going to stop. And the funny thing is, this entire audit is on live feed 24 hours a day, and all of the results will be handed over for inspectors to go through and verify. There is no way that there's fraud in this audit. But as we all know, the Democrats, those on the left, don't play by their own rules. They're allowed to make false accusations about fraud, and nothing ever happens to them. There are even claims that the people performing the audit are deleting data somehow. That they're deleting, I don't know, ballots. How can they even make these ridiculous claims and get away with it? There's nothing going on here other than people are performing an audit. The standards need to be the same. If you have some sort of evidence of fraud, then you need to bring it forward. Present the evidence and let that speak for itself. But to try to insinuate that something is going on in this audit that is being shown on live feed 24 hours a day is beyond irresponsible. I have no idea if anything's going to come out of this audit. But what the left is doing to try to shut it down and to try to create some kind of fear based upon an audit is despicable. It's the same idea that the government is the boss and you should never, ever reject your boss. You should never push back and question your superiors. But that's not the way it works. We have every right to audit these ballots. We have every right to know what's in those ballots, and we have every right to expand this to other areas in the country. Biden is president, and it's very unlikely that's going to change in the next 3.5 years. But that doesn't mean we can't take a look at some ballots. That doesn't mean that we can't tighten up election integrity. If you really value the vote, the individual vote, then you would want a secure and safe audit. So I guess I'll end the show by saying, for those of you who have been in areas with heavy mask restrictions that have been lifted, enjoy it. Enjoy going out and breathing fresh air. For those of you who are still in areas who are requiring masks and who are no longer following the science, I feel sorry for you, but you voted for these people, and votes have consequences. So you're going to have to deal with it. Contact your representatives and see if you can get them to change their mind. But for the rest of us, we're going to sit back, start enjoying the summer, and walk around with bare faces. Until next time.